then the day before the Grammys, my wife gets a direct message on Instagram from a woman that I had been with while I was on tour.
Wow.
And thus began this journey. It was a moment where the total picture of the man I had become was in front of me. Not just the pretty parts that I want people to see, not just the stuff they see on stage. It was everything. And it was obviously more through the lens of what my wife has been experiencing by being married to me.
Right.
So I'm faced with a choice, right? Either, bye, baby, I love you, but this is who I am. I'm going to keep doing that. You and I can figure our thing out, you know what I mean? Like that life that many of us in the musicians and, we experience divorce. I'll see the kids on the weekends, that whole lifeline. Or I could begin the journey of what I now know is manhood. And so making that decision to make that journey is when you and I, when I believe God put you in my life. So at the airport that day, still stirring of how am I going to maintain this now decision that I've made about being a better person, a better human being, a more faithful husband, all of those things that I've always envisioned I would be. Always envisioned that I would be a great husband, great dad, great, partner in a relationship, but I had no blueprint for how to make that happen. And so that's when you and I got connected, and, I could go on and on and on, but I tell you, man, I can't thank you enough for what you've not only done for me, but for my marriage and for the legacy of my children, teaching me and showing me what it means to be a man. It's like this dream I had, and I finally achieved it, but I couldn't enjoy it because of my maleness. My maleness robbed me of being able to enjoy this moment I had worked my entire life for.
Was there a man that ever gave you, specifically gave you manhood messaging? Whether it was your father or any other man, where they sat down and they told you, hey, this is what manhood really is, in terms of what we've just established. That manhood is about being a servant leader. Did you ever hear that concept in your life prior to us really getting into it?
It genuinely wasn't until you and I got together and we started having these conversations about what it means to sustain manhood. Because it, and I'll share this with your viewers as well, that I'm celebrating almost 2 years of sobriety now.
Thank you, God. And congratulations, brother. Phenomenal.
Hallelujah. Thank you, God. Bro. Yeah, thank you, man. That moment that I explained to you earlier was kind of the catalyst that made me take a look at myself. And again, let me applaud my wife, because having someone in your corner that sees you for the best of who you can be, as opposed to the mistakes of who you've been, is a real gift. She has endured a lot, from being on the road and the things that, the rumors and all these sorts of things. And, she's very strong, but, only to a point, and she kind of looked at me and she was like, look, I love you, but this ain't it.
Yeah.
And I believe that there's more for you out there.
My father, who told me that he loved my mother in one breath, but then in the next breath looked out to a woman across the street, cat called out to her. In my head as a 12-year-old kid, the messaging I got was, oh, you can love one woman, but you can lust after many. Got it. Message received. And that started my trajectory. Yes, that started my trajectory as a cheater. And it wasn't until my 30s when I began to seek out what kind of man I wanted to become. And when I started to pursue my space of spirituality, righteousness, all of that, that's when I really began to come into this skin. So that's why I asked you, because I wanted folks to be able to understand it's not a magical age.
Yeah, no, not at all. Age has nothing to do with it.
Absolutely nothing.
No, it's when you get the right messaging and when you're ready to do the work to sustain it.
The work.
Your muscles, you don't build your body and your physique in one day.
That's right.
You have to habitually make a commitment to wake up, go to the gym, lift those weights, get on that treadmill, and over time you see the results of that. You can look at it one day and it looks the same. You look at it the next day, it looks the same. You look at it a week, like, oh, this isn't working, but it is working if you consistently do it. That's the only way it works. Manhood is exactly the same.
What points do you feel like you were being really more male than man?
Well, if I'm being 100% honest, it's my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah, my whole life, I have struggled with how to be faithful in a relationship, how to be honest. I mean, a vast majority of my struggles have been in a relationship.
Oh my gosh, bro, that's so good.
And how to navigate truth. I didn't really become friendly and accepting of the truth until the past couple of years. Vehemently afraid of the truth. For me, I'm kind of a natural born people pleaser, right? I want everybody to be happy. When I come into a room, I want you to feel a certain kind of way. You know what I mean? I don't want anybody to be upset with me, mad at me. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of have that as my default disposition. And so, in that space, the lack of manhood, it creates this tornado of fear, of lies, and anything you can do to kind of keep the status quo. Everybody around you happy, even if it means you're hurting yourself. So, it can't even, like, I can't even really be specific with you. It's just up until a couple of years ago, I have just been kind of flying by the seat of my pants trying to figure this out, because I'm living under the guise of I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. I treat people well. I'm nice to people. You know what I mean? Like, I live like, you're a good guy, but I had kind of resigned that I was always going to struggle in a marriage. I just resigned that was just who I was. Like, all right, so you'll lick it, you'll figure it out, and then you'll mess up. All right, and you got to deal with that. But it's cool. It's temporary, and then you'll move on. I thought that was just the natural cycle of my life, which is tragic. It's tragic to think that that's what I think is normal living,
Right.
Fortunately, I don't think that anymore, and, I'm just so grateful that my children are going, especially my sons, are going to get different messaging. I'll take all the good that I got from my dad, because there was a lot of good, and I don't want this to be, anything that doesn't speak to his greatness in certain areas.
Absolutely. I've often said that women always think that if a guy cheats, that he doesn't love them. And I've often said, when I counsel sisters, I go, that's because you've never talked to a guy, really. These are all the ideas that you're filling in the blanks yourself, and you have no idea what you're talking about. That guy who cheats on you does care. There are a bunch of other things that are happening inside of him that he didn't allow himself to control. But the fact that he didn't love you is not the case, right? So I can love you, but not know how to love you. Those are two totally different things. So what were the experiences? Was it about maybe some of the things that you experienced in letting down your wife, or maybe even some things that in dealing with, what that could have been for your children? What was the one thing that really activated you to want to pursue your manhood? And then what were the steps that you took in order to pursue it?
Well, I think first things first for me, I had to get sober. So I think that was my initial assignment, was to figure out what is this thing that's blocking me from even being a whole person. Beyond a man, beyond, whatever else is in my life. I need to figure out how can I be well. So, and again, I haven't talked about this, but from that moment, I went to rehab. And for 30 days, got sober, began to think a little bit more clearly about what I had been doing, the consequences of my actions, what it really meant. But I didn't understand. I did not understand the impact of my behavior. I did not understand how damaging cheating is. I didn't know. And it had just been so, such a part of my life for so long that, I didn't even have the ability to know.
Yeah. That became a muscle.
It's a muscle. It's a muscle. It just, it just was what it was. And, that's, I'm not one that, that lives in regrets, but boy, I knowing the pain that my wife has experienced as a result of me not having my manhood in control, it breaks my heart. It brings me to tears every single time I talk about it. Every single time I cannot stop crying because I love her so much.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, man, this is another fascinating thing for me. I had been, living a certain way for so long and, cheating and all this stuff. I didn't even know if I loved my wife.
Right.
I'm like, maybe I don't.
Right.
Maybe that's why this is what's going on.
Right.
Maybe it's because we're not supposed to be together. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's what it is. And it's so crazy, man. Now having over 2 years now of us living, faithfully and together, and I'm more in love with her than I've ever been. I remember thinking, being afraid of like, how's it gonna be with not having the option to be with somebody else? You know what I mean? Like, how are you gonna, feel having that taken away from you? You know what I'm saying? Like crazy stuff.
Right.
You're gonna be sad. You're gonna be unhappy. You're gonna be unfulfilled. You're not gonna be able to sustain that.
Yep.
The exact opposite is true. The exact opposite is true. I'm happier, more fulfilled, more connected than I've ever been. It is the journey for a woman back from that challenging, catastrophic, painful, scary. Yes. All of that. And, when my wife kind of gave me the ultimatum about getting well, it was not with the fact that, hey, I'm staying with you. Let me make that clear to the viewers as well. She ain't just stay with me. You know what I mean? Like,
I can attest to that too.
You can attest to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was not about her just like, all right, come on, we gonna work it. No, it was like, I'm out. Like, you got some work to do.
You got work to do, but I ain't gonna be here for it.
No.
Yeah,
nor should she have been. No, yeah, absolutely. And fortunately, I've had help from you and just the willingness to want to be my full self.
Yes.
And obviously there are things in sobriety that I've learned that I practice now that have helped me to stay, in this space. And the other fruit is with my wife. I can wake up in the morning and she ain't smacked me yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For a minute it was just like on sight. Morning, baby.
Just on sight. You disgust me.
on site. Baby,
On
can I get some
site.
coffee? No. Bah. and, and now, you know, like even with this coronavirus, man, and we're quarantined in the house with one another, we're like two college kids. You know, we're up till 3, 4, 5 in the morning watching movies in bed together. And, you know, I've got my phone out. You know, you can look at my phone. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
Nothing to
Yes.
hide.
Nothing to hide.
Nothing to hide.
I love it, man.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like this
You killing me over here. You know that,
bro.
right? You killing me over here, bro.
It's so exciting for me, man, because when you walk into your purpose, and I really want people to understand this that are watching this, when you finally make and take the plunge into your purpose, the speed in which you can move, the heights in which you can climb are immeasurable. There is nothing that you can accomplish when you are walking in your purpose. And if that's a man, that's your manhood. If you're a woman, that's your womanhood. And please let Brother D help you along that journey. You know what I'm saying?
You killing me, man.
Hey, that's real though, man.
Bro, that's so real, bro. Real. It's so real, man.